Hey guys, I'm in here editing video and I'm editing a video on changing the transmission solenoid. And I looked at the video and it's just crap. The lighting's bad, the sound is bad, it doesn't lend itself to voiceover. It's not good video. The transmission solenoid I was changing is in the Chrysler 545 RFE. Now honestly, there are other videos that are quite good videos on the internet on changing that 545 RFE solenoid. But those videos don't cover one thing that needs to be looked at when you're doing this solenoid. So I figured I'd talk about that a minute and then include the part that I think is pretty funny in my solenoid changing adventure. So the part that none of these videos cover is the transmission wires. See, the wiring harness for the 545 RFE uh, is an integrated wiring harness. That transmission is Chrysler's go-to transmission for V8s. It's in every V8 since the 90s. There are 3 iterations of that transmission that I know of. All 3 have different solenoids. I find O'Reilly does a good job of getting you the right solenoid. And I find that the videos on the internet that are currently out there telling you about changing that solenoid are very good. But none of them cover the wiring harness. See, the wiring harness goes, well, the transmission component of the wiring harness, I should say, goes behind the engine, down the firewall, and over the top of the transmission to the driver's side where it plugs in to the terminal that plugs into the solenoid. That wiring harness passing in that spot gets exposed to a lot of heat and a lot of vibration. The insulation they put around that harness is not adequate in that area, and it'll break down, it'll get hot and just sort of crumble in your hands. If you're under there working on that solenoid and as you move your wiring harness you see crumbs of insulation, of shrink wrap or what have you falling down on you, you need to deal with your wiring harness. The way you deal with that wiring harness is like this. One, you go buy an OEM, not an aftermarket, an OEM wiring harness, and you dissect your entire vehicle's electronics and change that wiring harness. I do not recommend that. I do not recommend spending that. It wouldn't surprise me to know that's a $1,500 wiring harness. Here's what you do. If you get under your vehicle, you'll notice there is a transmission cross member. What you'll want to do is get a jack on your transmission, pull the bolts on that cross member, and ease down the back of your transmission, making sure not to bind anything or break anything along the way, but ease down the back of that transmission to give you maximum exposure to that wiring harness. And then you'll want to get up in there with your cutters and you'll want to clip all the little clips, many clips as you can, pull all that insulation off to where you have just the bare wires, just a bundle of wires running along, okay? Then you'll want to take your terminal tool and some tape. You'll want to tape each wire, meticulously labeling which one goes where. Build yourself a little diagram. So you've got row 1, number 1, row 1, number 2, row 1, number 3, row 2, number 1, row 2, number 3, so on and so forth. Row 5, number 1, till you get all those wires labeled. Then you want to take your terminal tool and pop them out. So you've got little floppy terminal ends. The terminal is disconnected. The wire is bare of all of its heat shielding. All the little clips holding it on are gone. So you've got a bundle of wires and that's it. Then you'll want to take this stuff right here. This is Amazon. This is this XL 35 millimeter insulation heat shrink stuff. And you'll want to feed it up that wiring harness as far as you possibly can, covering as much of that wire as you can. Generally speaking, the area where it chafes is just as it leaves the firewall and comes right over the top of your transmission. Somewhere in that area is where you're going to find a chafing point. And you'll want to heat shrink that. And the reason you want to heat shrink that is because the reason your solenoid went out is because you've got a short in your harness. Probably, if it's crumbling. If the solenoid didn't go out because you have a short in your harness, It will go out because you have a short in your harness because you don't have adequate heat shrink on it. It's not shielded and it's in an area where it can chafe. So take the time, lower the back of the transmission, give yourself room to work, get up in there, clean off that harness, pull the terminal, put the heat shrink on, put it all back together. Okay? That's what I recommend you do. Then you change your solenoid. Like I said, there are other videos to tell you how to do that. Then you plug it in, you're ready to rock and roll. Okay? Now, I did all that. I should have, I put the video up, but the video sucks. But in the adventure of changing the solenoid, this happened. And I hope you get a kick out of it. All right, YouTube. So I've got the pan down, and there's some drippage. See that big old wad of a whole roll of paper towels and how that cardboard's kind of shiny under there? Well, I kind of had a feeling this is how this was going to go. See, the only other time I was completely covered in oil was the very last time I worked on a transmission. And these are my shorts. That's not a skid mark. That's transmission fluid. About a quart's worth in there. And there's my shirt. And that's about 2 quarts worth there in my good LSU yard shirt there. So I don't think Mama's gonna let me put that in the washing machine. So I am working on a car in my Hugo Boss drawers. Sure hope the neighbors don't come over because I got a ways to go yet. So there you go. The fun of doing things yourself. Anyhow, guys, if you got a kick out of that, or if my tip helped you at all or gave you something else to look at in your sorting out of your transmission, guys, please like, comment, and subscribe. Especially subscribe. I could use the subscribers. I appreciate it, guys. Thanks.